Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Stars sports podcast. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. On today's show, we're talking Sporting Kansas City soccer. SKC has already opened the season, a 1-1 draw at the Houston Dynamo last weekend. That's a better start than last year when an opening game loss led to a 10-game winless streak to open the season. But in 2023, Sporting rallied to make the MLS playoffs and knocked off top-seeded St. Louis in an opening round series. So entering this season, the vibe is better for manager Peter Vermes and the players, and you'll hear from them on today's show. But first, a discussion among Vahe Gregorian, star columnist, beat writer Daniel Sperry, and a special guest, Nate Bukaty. Nate is a longtime radio co-host of the Border Patrol on SportsRadio 810 WHB. His national profile has grown as a broadcaster for MLS games on Apple TV and other outlets. So let's get going talking Sporting Kansas City with Vahe, Daniel, and Nate. Hey, but first, a note about this conversation. When we recorded it, we weren't sure when the program would post. So you'll hear some references to next week, last week, having played the Philadelphia Union, this Saturday's opponent, all sorts of things. So just for reference, we recorded this conversation on Tuesday, February 27th. We have the biggest of hitters in the house with us now. In fact, such a big hitter, I'm going to turn the recording device toward him and
I
bring
thought you were looking at Daniel.
The elaborate recording device.
The elaborate recording device.
New phone?
Fancy studio.
Nate Bukaty is here, and Nate Bukaty is not only the voice of a voice on Sports Radio 810 in the mornings with Stephen St. John, not only a voice with Sporting Kansas City and everything Kansas City soccer, but he is a voice for the MLS, Apple TV, Fox, everything. Nate, thanks for stopping by. What did I miss?
I don't know, but I want to stop by more often because that's like the best introduction I've gotten anywhere. So thank you, Blair. This is great. No, man, it's awesome to be with you guys.
Well, thanks for doing this. We're just going to chat a little bit about what we heard today at Sporting Kansas City's Media Day. We're recording this on a week earlier. Listen, I know you're hearing this on Tuesday, but actually we spoke a week ago. So forgive us for delaying this, but that's how it works in the podcast industry.
Content creation, baby.
That's right. We got to turn to the experts here, Daniel and Nate, about just a kind of a quick preview of this team, this season's team. Already had a match, 1-1 draw at Houston. Scored early, scored first, but ended up getting a draw, which was they got a result. Why is there reason to believe that this team will get off to a better start in 2024 than last year?
I think first off, it's the health. For me, the health of this team is completely different from what it was at the beginning of last year. I was looking back at it, and I think maybe 5 or 6 of the people who started in the game against St. Louis at home when they won that, could clinch that round, 6 of the 11 starters were not healthy enough to be on the field or even in the starting 11 or in the match day roster for that team that started out in those first 4 games. And so, over that time, you get all those players in, and then you saw what happened when that was in. There's none of that integration for these guys in now. I mean, there's some guys that are slowly getting minutes back because they picked up a minor knock or so in the training camp, and they were being very cautious with bringing them back. So the health and the fitness side may, I think Peter mentioned after the match against Houston, Johnny's not 90 minutes fit yet, but you got 60 minutes of Johnny Russell on the field. That did not happen for the first 4.5 games of the season. So when you look at this team, now you're looking at, okay, well, they've got the full team that went on that massive run to make the playoffs after the dire start. That's, for the most part, who's playing in this at the start of the season. And I think that is an encouraging sign because that's a team that we have seen get results on the field, especially over a long, extended period of time. We're able to be one of the 5 best teams in the league over that course of time. So I think that for me, that's why when you look at the way they've gone in to the start of this season compared to last season, that's just that cannot be understated.
You guys don't need me here because Daniel covered it. So in an attempt not to basically repeat exactly what he said, because I sign off on all of it, I'll try to build on it a little bit. If there's one more thing that I would add to that, it's the consistency that they have as a squad playing together, and that is somewhat related to the fact that they're healthier this year. But also I would point out that players like Nemanja Radoja and Danny Rosero were newcomers not only to the team but to the league at this time last year. And I don't have the dates correct right off the top of my head. Maybe Daniel does, but Radoja was a little banged up at the start of the season too, so he wasn't even really a fully integrated player at this time last year. And Rosero didn't come in till right at the start of the season, if I remember correctly. So
yeah, I think both of them made their debuts in the Philadelphia match.
Okay,
which is when Allen also made his return to play. So
yeah, so even those guys weren't, even if they weren't healthy, they weren't fully integrated to the team yet. But also, I think it took those guys a while. I know this from talking to Tim Melia. He mentioned this to me a few days ago. Those players, it takes a while to learn the system of the new team that you're at, but also to learn the unique challenges of playing Major League Soccer in the United States. Most guys reference the travel, the weather conditions. They're not used to getting on a plane and flying 3 hours to their matches. That would be by far the longest road trip they would take in a season, especially if they're coming from Europe. So the fact that they've got an entire season under their belts and then an off season and a preseason to ramp up, I think that the chemistry on the team this year should be much better right out of the gate than it was at this time a year ago.
And Vahe, Peter Vermes came over and spoke to us kind of before the media festivities started and mentioned the difference in training this year versus last, and how there was, I believe he used dark cloud, which was kind of an interesting way to describe it.
Well, it was very interesting on multiple levels because he spoke about the fact that they went to Florida instead of Arizona, just as I understood it anyway, just for a change. Wanted to, I don't know if it's a weather change exactly, right? But to challenge with a different environment, just, how you reset when you go different places. And I think it had been 10, 12 years that they've been going to Arizona. But the dark cloud reference was to just the format last year in Arizona. They would have all the guys rehabbing right there. Like they were literally seeing them on the sidelines while they're having the workouts. And it was a little unclear to me if he recognized that in real time, that he thought of it as a dark cloud or in hindsight. But by contrast, this year, either because of the fact that very few people are injured, in fact, who's injured?
Yeah, right? I think there's 4 guys who are out, but even then, I think they're, not to be rude to those players, but they're not necessarily the heavy hitters, not first team players.
And Debe's injured from last year. He's still trying to come back. That's the most significant one.
But even when they were in Florida, I think whoever those guys all were, I don't think they were physically there. Right? They worked them out back here because there weren't so many of them that you had to have them all on site. So it sounded very liberating to me the way he was describing it. Like it was just this. It was a great symbol of the heaviness of early last season.
Yeah.
All right, so since I'm with writers, I'm going to try to give a literary reference here. You didn't have any idea how off the rails this would get by inviting me, but I'm in the process of reading the Harry Potter books with my daughter back. I read them once back in the day, and now I'm reading them. And we just had a chapter last night. I don't know if this is a reference you guys will pick up or not, but at the Weasley house, they had a magical grandfather clock. And instead of the hands telling you what time it was, the hands represented each person in the family, all 4 of the children and the mom and dad, and it would point to where they were in the world. And sometimes it would be on the way home, but it also could point to things like in mortal peril. And at one point in the part we were reading the book last night, all of the family's hands were pointing towards in mortal peril, and the mom kind of tries to dismissively say, it's been like that for a few weeks now. And I had a conversation with my daughter about the fact that, could you imagine, like most people that are in mortal peril probably don't know it. Could you imagine having a sign on the wall in your house that's just reminding of you that all day, every day, that, by the way, someone's trying to kill you, and what a cloud that would be hanging over you. That's what I'm thinking of with this idea that while we're training, here's all of our best players over there and they're not available. Like, it's just a reminder at all times. And I don't know, there's my my literary reference for the day.
Well done. Well done.
That's well done. But it's also, I mean, that's the picture that Peter's painted of this, a couple of times now too, was that the ability to not look over and just see guys on a treadmill or guys on a bike, and knowing that they're nowhere near being able to even remotely contribute, and they're the guys that everyone's finances are invested in, and everyone's the fan base's hopes are invested in. I think that took a toll on a team mentally. That I think is something that, as you said, maybe in hindsight you can see how much of a toll that was when you get back into that situation, and it's like, wow, everybody's in training today, and there might be one guy who is nursing things off to the side. I know they mentioned too the fact that they changed their like testing when they get in, so everybody tests, and if they all come in and they test, if they hit their level of fitness, they're in a green light, and there's a yellow light and a red light. They said for the first time ever, everybody came in at a green light except for one player, and that player had to step aside and train by themselves in a way to allow them to ramp up so they did not further injure themselves, and as a way to motivate them to get fit. And that player very quickly got out of that group and was back within the full group. And so I think when you have that ability to have everybody in on every little session, and you're trying to layer in all the details of the tactics and the system and everything, it just makes everything feel better. And I think that, last year they won the game, it all started to feel better, and then the feel came with the play on the field, and they went on that run, and you can start out feeling good. Probably has a huge impact.
Can that carry into this season? Is that?
Well, I think Peter said something today at the media session, and it might have been to Vahe's question, that I think stands out, is that you work and work and work to build self-confidence, and then it can all go away like that, right? So I think that's probably part of the constant stress you find yourself under, is that you can still go play a couple of good matches and the results don't turn out the way that you want to, and then all of a sudden does it start to hurt your confidence again. So you're maybe constantly fighting that battle. And the thing about this league is, one thing that Major League Soccer has that no other soccer league, and Daniel might correct me on this, that I can think of in the world, is the word parity that we hear that's referenced so often in the NFL, where the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champs, can lose to the Raiders, right, in the regular season. You can run into a stretch. Most teams in Major League Soccer run into a stretch where the results don't go their way. And sometimes results you think that on paper they should totally win, they don't get the result. And so that's still going to be tested at some point this season, whether it's now or in the middle of the year. I would be stunned if they don't have a rocky patch at some point this year that they have to figure out how to navigate.
Claire, to your question too, Tim Melia spoke to this a little bit. He used the term, you can't recreate the magic that they got. You can't. You can't assume it. You can't.
Right.
It's its own concoction this time around. So, I do believe there's got to be some kind of momentum that carries when you see what you did when you're healthy, but it can be gone in an instant. You have to reset your own whole agenda for the season.
So again, we're at Media Day, and we talk a lot about not just sporting Kansas City, but soccer in Kansas City, and what's happening here, and it's amazing. And it's the next few years are just going to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Let's start with a game in April that's coming up. Miami is coming to Kansas City. They moved the game to Arrowhead Stadium, and with the fingers crossed, Messi's going to play. What does this mean? A game in which perhaps 70,000 fans could be in attendance. Yeah,
that was the number that Jake Reed kind of initiated today. Said they're on track to selling out Arrowhead, and that would mean over 70K for this game. It would be the largest crowd for soccer in the state of Missouri ever, and that would knock out St. Louis City, and I think unless they ever played at the old, I don't know what it's called now, but the old Edward Jones Dome, if they ever decided.
Well, even this,
not big enough. Probably hold 70,000.
Hold 70,000. Yeah. So I think for a while that number will be safe, but it means a ton. I don't know those who are at a fan level not really familiar with the game outside of, we know sporting exists, we like going to games because they're fun, I don't think understands the weight that the name Lionel Messi or even just his last name carries globally. It is unlike it is unlike Mahomes mania. It is maybe on par with Taylor Swift Swifties. I mean, this is going to attract hundreds and thousands of people across the region to Kansas City for this, and it's going to be a very, at a micro level experience of what the World Cup is going to be like, because Messi's Argentinian. The Argentinian community just circulates around that. Nate's been to some of these games and can probably attest to like the atmosphere and the vibe from all these people coming into one place to see, just to get a glimpse of this guy. But he is probably the highest global profile of an athlete that may ever play in Kansas City, barring whatever happens in the next World Cup.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine a sports figure being a bigger icon in the world than Messi is. I have had the pleasure of watching him play in person 3 times. I got to watch him twice last year during that magical run. I watched that first game he had where he scored the goal against Cruz Azul. And I got the chance to broadcast a couple of his preseason games, called the commentary. Now, I was in a TV studio in Florida while those matches were in Saudi Arabia and Hong Kong. And I will tell you this, the part that I'm really hoping for is what doesn't happen with the game I called in Hong Kong, which was he didn't play. And then the Chinese government gets involved, and they're mad, and they don't want the Argentinian national team supposedly is banned from ever playing there again. The last 30 minutes of the game, the whole stadium was booing because they could tell that he wasn't going to come into the game. And I know Jake Reed got asked about this today. There's no way of controlling that. You have no idea if he's going to be healthy or not healthy. But if he plays, the only thing I would say in terms of what it means, I mean, this is a series of when you look at the timeline of soccer in Kansas City history, put another pin down for this date. The game against Manchester United was one of those. I was at that game. That was a massive moment for the club. Yeah, and that was a game that was a friendly. Yep. This game is an actual regular season game, and then you can put, obviously, all building up to the World Cup. The thing I would say, when I hear people say it's just one guy, how could it, is it really worth it just to get a glimpse of this one guy? Watching this man play soccer, honest to God, the only thing I can even really compare it to is, for me, watching Patrick Mahomes in person, by which I mean when the ball is in that man's possession, every inch of the stadium comes alive. And there's like an energy field that just permeates through the whole place. And the closer you are in proximity to that man with the ball, the more you come alive. Like, you see everybody in the stands just kind of rises up immediately. The players on the field, if you're guarding Messi and he gets the ball, you just see a different level of attentiveness and awareness. You see his teammates, when he gets the ball, spring to life a little bit more. The security guards just stand up a little bit straighter. And it's I can't recreate the feeling by describing it, but I hope you understand. Like, when you see Mahomes, you feel like you stand up a little straighter because this guy might do something that I haven't seen before. And that is Messi, and he's doing it in a free-flowing sport where you never know when he might receive the ball, and you have no idea what he's going to do with it. And he is an artist performing, and the best artists all around him are amazed by him. The only analogy to that I could come up with was when I watched Prince play in concert one time, and the other world-class musicians on stage looked at him in awe when he was playing the guitar. And that's how the players react to him. Even the great players that he's played with his whole life seem to react that way to him. So people ask me, like, is it worth it just to go? Yes. If you get a chance to go watch this man perform his art live in person, it's worth going. Yeah. So the more people that can see it, the better, as far as I'm concerned. All
right, great conversation with Vahe Gregorian, Daniel Sperry, and the Messi of soccer broadcasting, Nate Bukaty.
Please don't curse me with that. Anytime somebody gets branded the Messi of something, they fall on their face professionally, because there's just no way.
There's no way that can happen to you, Nate. Thanks so much for your time, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
I'm not sure Peter Vermes was ever on the hot seat after last season's slow start, but it was a horrible start. Hey, we caught up with Vermes at Sporting's Media Day and asked him about last year's finish, how it could carry over to this season. And we talked to him about Johnny Russell's role as team captain.
The first thing I'd say is that for the guys that were here, yeah, I think there's definitely a carryover. I also think that they also feel very proud about what they did because they knew that it wasn't easy early on, and there's a level of commitment that you have to show as a player, and then you have to execute when the time comes, and they did when the time came. So I think there's a pride factor in that. I think the other is that the group, they understand what that was like. Nobody wants to have to go through that again, for sure. But I think the other side of it is that they also have a sense of, inner strength that they probably knew they had before. And that's a good thing because you can draw on that at times. For the new guys, they have no idea. They're just thinking they're starting off a season and let's go. I've said this before that from the 2013 to 2014 season, I had the exact same team, same roster, brought all the same guys back, and knew that before the final, because we had already made a lot of decisions. But it still was a different year, right? It's always going to be a different year because you're going to be faced with different challenges, and I'm sure we're going to have different challenges this year. And that's probably one of the great things about the job is that it's always different, and you get different decisions to make at different times. And the other thing about it is that you don't have a lot of time to think about it because you got to make a lot of decisions quickly and go. And if it doesn't work, get ready for the next one. And that's where you get really tested. And so I think both player, staff, everybody is pretty excited about this year. And even like I said, like how we started this past weekend, good composure to get a result.
Daniel Sperry, KC Star. Johnny's been your captain for the last few years now. Just over the years, what are some of the leaders? How have you seen him grow as a leader, and what are some of the traits that you kind of saw in him that you knew he would be a good captain for the squad?
Yeah, I think what happens is I think sometimes you have qualities already inside you that those qualities lend themselves to you already being a leader. Sometimes guys don't necessarily know it, or they don't know how much impact they actually have. And then finally, there's also sometimes you have to invoke some strategy with that as well. And I think Johnny already had a lot of those qualities. Sometimes I don't think he knew it, and I don't think he knew how much of an impact he already had just as a guy on the team. What I do think he's grown and learned is there's strategy sometimes in certain situations, and whether that's dealing with staff or it's dealing with a colleague, a player, a teammate. And I think he's gotten a lot better at that. But Johnny's he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's an emotional guy, but it's great to have that in the team. And I never doubt his commitment or wanting to win. It's always there, and that's a big part of who he is.
Finally, let's hear from Johnny Russell. He spoke about the responsibility of being a captain and his mindset heading into the season. A little bit later, I asked Johnny, who's a Chiefs season ticket holder, what he thinks about the back-to-back Super Bowl champions.
As much as you don't enjoy it in the time, it's part of the learning experience of being the captain, being the leader of the team. I gained a huge amount of experience from that difficult time. Like I said, there's so many guys here even now that could do the job. So it's nice to be seen as the top of the pile as it is.
Such a different year coming into this year. Last year, you were captain of a team that was held together by baling wire and string.
Yeah.
So many guys injured and stuff. This year, you're healthy. The team is healthy. Lots of expectation. What did you take from last year that you can use this year, and how much more enjoyable is it going to be a captain of a team that's hitting full stride right at the beginning of the season?
I just think when we're at full strength, when we've got everyone there, we're just a dangerous team. I think you've seen that once we got everyone back, once we got all the pieces back from May, June onwards. I think our record speaks for itself. The way we were playing speaks for itself, and especially teams coming here. You want that sort of that fear factor to come back, and I think you could see it last year. It's up to us and we can't rest on that. We have to go and show it again. Mm-hmm. But like you said, everyone's fit. We've got a couple of slight things here and there, but nothing to the extent we were dealing with last year, where you probably had 4 or 5 of your starters missed the beginning of the year and missed significant time as well. So to have everyone fresh with a good pre-season, everyone ready to go at the start of the year, I think it's, you just, sometimes you have a feeling, I feel it's going to be a good year for us. That's up to us to do that, obviously, but no, just in training, just when you look around the guys, when you speak to the guys, there's just, I don't know, I think there's something different this year, and maybe a little bit of a chip on our shoulder from last year, and maybe a point to prove. Some people saying last year was luck to get into the playoffs, but I don't see it that way. I've seen the work that went into getting us there. Just overall feeling is probably excitement to see what, we keep everyone fit, see what we can achieve.
And the fact that you went through what you did last year, if you go through a 2 or 3 match losing streak, can you draw on that to say, hey, we went through a lot worse last year, we came through it, let's just keep pursuing? Is that how you approach it? Yeah,
I mean, we didn't panic last year. You have a couple of bad results this year, we're definitely not going to panic either. So we know this game it's so up and down. You can be top of the world one minute and then this game just kicks you sometimes. So we know what we're capable of as a team. We showed it last year. You can't, like I said, you can't rest on that. You can't be like, oh, we've done it before. But we've got so much experience now to draw from last year. But hopefully we're not in a position where we go on a little run like that and you lose games like that. If you lose a game, then you have to bounce back. The next game you have to win. It'd be ideal if you didn't lose a game all year, but we're realistic. We know that's probably not going to happen. Yeah. So we just have to respond well to that. You look at the game in Houston last year, we probably lose that game. You know what I mean? So we didn't play well at all. We probably didn't reach the standards that we've set ourselves or the play that we're capable of, and we managed to sneak a point on the road against for me, a very good side. So that's a positive sign. A little bit disappointing we take the lead and then we concede, but like I said, we probably didn't deserve a point. We took one. So in a long season, those points when you're not at your best, when you're on the road, they could be huge. It's a good point to start the season on the road. Now we're at home. Now it's time to start making this place a fortress again, and we need to win majority of our games here.
You're a season ticket holder?
I am, yes. I'm not saying it's because of me, but we've been back-to-back Super Bowl champs since I got my season tickets, so I'm just saying.
What do you admire about the way they go about business, the Chiefs?
I've always been a fan of the game, even when I was back home. It was always something I watched. It was always something I was interested in, so it's not new. To me, it's not as if I just came over here and started enjoying the sport. I've always liked it. I don't know. I think just no matter what's happening, it's 2 very different Super Bowls. One year you go into it flying, the favourite, and then the next year they grind it out, and then it just comes to the post-season, and they're just different. As soon as that post-season hits, big players step up, and some of the guys that they've got that step up in the biggest moments, it speaks for itself. They're fully deserving of being back-to-back, and it's just huge for this city as well. It's such a connected city that get behind their sports no matter what it is. I'm obviously, for me as well, it's amazing to be a part of it, be a part of the city when this is going on. And the words get thrown about a little bit recently, but it's a dynasty. Let's not make no mistake about it. So to be here and to be a part of it as a supporter and get to watch it, I love it.
That will do it for this episode. Big thanks to Randy Mason for pulling everything together and making it all make sense. And thanks to our SportsBeat KC staff of Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Vahe Gregorian, Daniel Sperry, and our special guest, Nate Bukaty, for sharing their insights. Here's my weekly plug for the Star's digital sports page, the Morning Sports Edition. All the updated coverage of Sporting KC, the Kansas City Current, the Chiefs, the Royals, college basketball, national and international news are found on the pages of liveedition.kansascity.com. That's liveedition, one word, .kansascity.com. Check it out. Thanks for listening. Hey, if you like what you heard, give us a rating, maybe even leave a comment. We'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in and around Kansas City on a weekly basis.